Welcome everyone to the welcome webinar, The Value of B Corp Certification. Good morning or early afternoon, depending on where y'all are calling in from. So excited to welcome y'all on today's webinar and the B Corp journey. So I'm Max Hayes. I'm a growth manager with B Lab US and Canada. I use pronouns he, him, and I'm joining y'all from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a nice snowy day on the homeland of the Lenape people. And so a bit of housekeeping before I introduce the team whom you run the webinar today. There is a live caption option available to you, but you will need to manually enable it on your end. And then we invite questions on the content throughout the webinar today, but please drop them into the Q&A box instead of the chat. We hope to answer as many questions as we can live, but for any that we don't get to, we'll be sure to send out the answers in our follow-up email to this event. We may also drop some links in the chat, but we'll be sending out the slide deck as well so you can access all the information we covered today. And please take a moment in the chat to introduce yourselves, connect with one another, and just make sure that your chat is set to everyone and not just the event hosts. So besides myself today, you'll also be hearing from my colleague Joao Campos, another growth manager here at B Lab US and Canada. We help companies pursue B Corp certification. And then we also have an amazing B Corp guest speaker here from a founding B Corp Revision Architects. So we have Drew Levine here. He's a partner at Revision. He leads the firm in design and deep green projects, including Net Zero Living, Living Building Challenge, and Passive House. He's a licensed architect with over 20 years of experience and has been with Revision since 2011. And as a proud small business owner, Drew has adopted the Paul Hawkins philosophy of doing well by doing good. And at Revision, this really means upholding and advancing the company's mission and values, not just through project work, but by creating an environment where staff will flourish and communities are uplifted. He remains steadfastly committed to maintaining Revision's founding B Corp certification status, as well as just transparency labels, and really leveraging them to continue building towards what good looks like for the organization. Also have some of my colleagues here, Heyron and Anastasia, who will be helping out in the chat and with our tech today. And so just to give a quick overview of how we'll be spending our time, here's our agenda for the day. So we'll kind of dive into a little bit of an overview of the B Corp movement before we kind of get deeper into the business case for certification. We'll hear from myself and Joao for that section, and then we'll move over to hearing from Drew. So Joao will be asking him some questions. We'll have a little fireside chat. Then I will do a live demo of the B Impact platform so folks can get familiar with it and feel confident in taking the next steps in their B Corp journey. We'll also leave you with some clear calls to action and other webinars and resources you can access, and then we'll open it up if we have any time left for Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. And so, again, before we get too deep into the business case for certification, I do think it's important to take a step back and really set some context. And so, B Lab was founded in 2006, and our founders had a vision that was guided by a simple question. Could business be used to transform capitalism so that it served more people more equitably? I think we all know that traditional capitalism prioritizes profit above all else. But there's growing demand for a different vision, one where business leaders are accountable to more than just profit, but also accountable to their business's impact on community, environment, customers, and more. And so over the past 20 years, the B Corp movement has shown that the answer to the founder's question is a big resounding yes. The B Corp movement has shown that companies can step up, help shape rules, and create more positive impacts for people and planet. And our mission at B Lab is to keep that vision alive by providing the tools and the community to help companies like yours amplify impact and create a more inclusive economy. And so today I'm proud to say that there are over 10,000 B Corps across the globe being supported by more than 1 million workers. And there's one trend that's increasingly clear, and it's that both people and companies want to invest their time, talent, and energy into organizations that align with their values. The real problem in today's market is how do you know which companies are actually living those values? And that's really the gap that B Corp fills, connecting a global community of purpose-driven businesses to those who want to support them. And so while the B Corp movement has proven that business can help transform capitalism, the founder's vision is just as urgent today. So across countries surveyed, more than half of respondents said that businesses aren't doing enough to address climate change. And research shows that consolidation of corporate power is driving global inequity. And so the B Corp movement is here to offer a different pathway, one that's not just pointing to what's wrong, but creating the conditions for business to lead and creating solutions for the future. And so many of y'all are likely already familiar with other certifications. Maybe you've purchased products that are organic certified or fair trade. Maybe you're working with suppliers who are asking you to comply with other disclosure frameworks. But one thing that's really important that sets the B Corp community apart is our community. And we're intentionally building a community that believes profit and care go hand in hand. And that vision's really ambitious, but it's also what makes this work in this community so meaningful. And the work isn't easy. We know that businesses face tough trade-offs every day. The market uncertainty is continuing to go up. But what we've learned over the past 20 years is that the way forward isn't going at it alone. It's through collective action, continuous improvement, and leading with peers who really share your commitment to making a positive impact. And so, if we dive a little bit deeper, the B Corp community is what makes our movement unique. But our holistic standards are really the backbone of our movement. And our standards allow certified B Corps to verify their impact, or as I like to say, show the receipts, and then use that credibility to drive real business value. And we like to joke sometimes at B Lab that our real mission is to work ourselves out of a job because we imagine a future where purpose-driven business are the norm, not the exception, and where extractive capitalism is a thing of the past. And the B Corp movement and that sentiment is like gaining a lot of momentum and is not just talk. Together, both B Lab and B Corps have changed corporate laws across the US and around the world, created one of the most credible impact standards in the world, and built a competitive advantage rooted in trust. And ultimately, we want to share these advantages with your organization, but in return, we ask for a few things. So first, we ask for a commitment to accountability, which goes back to our standards. We also ask for progress alongside a community of peers, and really your help in making extractive capitalism and B Lab obsolete. So that's kind of the big picture where we're at the 10,000 mile view. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me. And now I want to dive into some examples of what are the core values that make up the business before kind of teasing apart the different impacts that certification can have. And so, while business is a B Corp community for a wide variety of reasons, there are a few that are consistent around the globe. And the main theme really is that shared standards and shared purpose ultimately create stronger businesses. We see in the market today that businesses want more than just good PR. They want a clear framework to manage their company's impact. They want opportunities to turn individual efforts into shared progress. And ultimately, they want a competitive advantage that's rooted in trust. And so I believe that trust is hard to earn but easy to lose. And in both the business world as well as systems change, we don't always have time to build it relationship by relationship. But certification really provides the proof that you need to build trust quickly, as well as the peers to create progress. So now I'm going to run through a few quick examples of what this looks like in practice before handing it over to Joao to share a little bit more about how certification can make your organization more competitive. So when it comes to that clear framework to manage your impact, when we dive into the data, we see that B Corps are 3.7 times more likely to embed social and environmental goals into key decision making. And when it comes to collective action, the Be Beauty Coalition, I think, is a great example. This community of B Corps in the beauty industry is made up of over 50 organizations, all the way from small local businesses up to multinationals. And they're all kind of working together to help advance policy and improve value chains in their industry. Two quick examples of what this network has done. They've open sourced a sustainable ingredient database, and they've pooled resources together to engage in collective action campaigns. And then when it comes to the competitive advantage, we dive into the data. 85% of consumers who are aware of B Corp report that it influences their purchasing and that folks are willing to spend more on sustainably certified products. And so ultimately, again, the tagline here is trust needs proof and progress needs peers. And this is kind of the high level of what B Corp certification value is. And now I'll hand it over to Joao to dive deeper into the kind of more detailed aspects, the four ways that can B Corp certification can help your business lead better. All right, Joao, over to you.
Thank you, Max. And Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I'm going to continue on the same train of thought that Max was starting, talking about how B Corp certification impacts your business and your community in an impactful way. So here we have four of the most significant impacts that B Corp certification can bring to your business. I'll dive into each one of them in turn. But first, a quick overview. We start with earning unshakable trust. So backing up your claims and establishing credibility to your consumers. Also, the opportunity to attract and empower the best talent to grow your network and align with other businesses and to future-proof your business. So creating a structure that allows you to grow and maintain the impact that you have. So diving into this idea of trust. Something that Max said that we see really clearly in the market today is that B Corp certification is a way to back up the claims that you have. So consumers care about impact, about sustainability. They want to support brands that share the same values as them. But every company these days wants to say that they are sustainable. We have so much greenwashing happening, so consumer trust is actually quite shaky. People don't necessarily trust what a company is saying to them. But then when a business becomes B Corp certified, it's not just them saying something. B Corp certification, B Lab as an institution, as a movement, is backing up these claims. So it helps bridge this trust gap. Um, so this bridging this gap is a way that B Corps help connect businesses to consumers. Because we are a credible, transparent, and third-party verification, consumers know that what the brand is saying to you is backed up by evidence. It's not just them saying it to you. And the presence of that B Corp logo goes a long way in communicating that, all of these complex ideas in a really simple, visually appealing way. The second value that B Corp really brings to companies is around talent engagement. So aligning your workforce and your mission to unlock innovation, impact, and belonging. What this means in practice is that this old idea that workers want to work for an employer that shares their values and their ethics. In the UK, this recent research said that 90% of Gen Zs and millennials feel strongly about this, which means that purpose is no longer optional. And similar to the trust gap that I was saying towards consumers, employees can feel the same way. So the certification goes a long way in validating your value claims towards a potential workforce as well. The third big value that we have here is around community. Um, we've already started talking about how B Corp is more than just a certification. It's a movement that's supported by a global community. So by getting certified, you are engaging, being supported by, and challenged by. So you're being challenged to grow within this community. This is a really interesting data point that we got within our research from our Latin American partners. They've said that 70% of B Corps in Latin America have formed partnerships with another B Corp after getting certified and thanks to being part of this community. So these can be partnerships like sourcing from another B Corp, knowledge sharing, creating a product together, or hiring a service from another B Corp. We see that there are so many ways for B Corps to get to know each other, to exchange information, to create value together. And we have a couple of examples here in the ways that B Corps are able to meet and connect with each other, specific to our region in the US and Canada. The main opportunity for B Corps to connect in person is our Champions Retreat, which is actually happening April 21st to 23rd in Milwaukee. So pretty soon, all B Corps are uh, invited to attend. It's a gathering of over 1,000 people. It's very fun. Happens biannually, and it's the marquee event for companies to come, meet each other, learn learn updates from B Lab, and just have a chance to meet in person. The second main opportunity for in-person connection is the Build conferences. So that stands for B Corp Leadership Development. And it's basically a regional version of the Champions Retreat. Regions will host these annually or biannually, depending on the region. And it's a way to strengthen the B Corp community locally. And then we also have networks, which, as Max was saying earlier, with the Be Beauty Coalition, that's one of the most active networks that we have. But networks are not necessarily industry based. They can be based on region, on identity, or on role. So we have some examples like the BIPOC network. We have a big tourism network. And something to call out to is the B locals, which are hyper-specific regional organizations. So we have like B local New York City, we have B local Bay Area, and many, many others throughout the country for companies to connect with their local peers. And finally, we have here the idea of future-proofing your business, how B Corp ensures readiness and resilience for a complex world that's only getting more complex. B Corp certification provides a structure that helps you de-risk your business. So what does this look like in practice? B Corp, through the assessment and through the legal requirement that we require companies to complete, actually gives company a future fit toolkit and a business structure for helping them improve their impact. You can stay ahead of the curve in terms of regulation because B Corp is interrelated to a range of global regulations. By completing the assessment, it helps you stay on top of what governments are actually asking of you. And similar to this idea, um, it's important to say that B Corp is built on global frameworks. So we know that companies have several required and voluntary certifications and frameworks that they have to go through. The idea of interoperability in the standards for B Corp helps you complete and move towards compliance with all of these within the same assessment. Um, our system embeds policies, targets, and monitoring systems into a single platform. So with one platform, you can look at different areas of your business and create a unified management system that looks at your environmental, social, and governance impact all with one system. And finally, with the purpose and stakeholder governance piece of the standards, we allow companies to create a governance structure that's legally binding to uphold the highest standards of impact. And that is a structure that's built to last through any changes and growth in the company. Okay, so now you've heard from Max and from me from B Lab, and it's now time to hear from someone who has a different type of practical experience with B Lab, or with B Corp. It's my pleasure to introduce Drew Levine, who is the partner and director of design at Revision Architecture. Revision was one of the first companies to get certified as a B Corp. So I believe you can now see and hear Drew. Drew, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, so the way this is going to work, it's going to be a quick Q&A between Drew and I. So, Drew, I thought that it would be great for us to start with just a quick background. If you want to just introduce yourself quickly and like how you touch B Corp within your work.
Yeah, sure. Nice to meet everyone here today. Appreciate you being here. So a little bit of background. Yeah, my name is Drew Levine. I'm a partner at Revision Architecture. I've been with the company since 2011. And when I first joined the company, I was an architect. I joined as a staff architect and project manager. We got our we first became certified with B Corp. I think it was in 2007 as part of that kind of initial cohort of companies. And so I was only a few years after we started to get into this. And so really my entire tenure at Revision has been coinciding with our continuous recertification with B Corp. I became a partner at the company in 2021, and all of a sudden I started to experience and learn B Corp in a different way as a business owner. I was on the other side of it as an employee, and so it's something that I've personally found such great meaning and implication to our work as an owner. Um, as I've gotten into it, a little bit about our company and why B Corp matters to us. We do two things. We're an architecture firm that's focused on sustainable architecture. And in that space, we do everything from single family homes to commercial new construction, adaptive reuse, higher ed, schools work. The other half of our company focuses on sustainable consulting. And so we will work with other architects, with builders, with owners on how to make their projects more sustainable. We also work with organizations on how to make their organizations more sustainable and help them with their B Corp certification. So we're in a space that so deeply aligns with what B Corp is doing to out of the gate. We've really adopted the attitude of stakeholders, not shareholders, from the earliest days of our company, and and it was one of those things that B Corp put the language on that, and so it's really helped us to really focus our business in the impact direction and really every time we go through certification, we do it better and we find new ways to track impact within our company and share that with with our colleagues and our community.
That's so great to hear. Yeah, it's great that we have you here to share more about, all these years of experience going through certification and then recertification.
Hmm. Hmm.
The first question that I have for you here is I shared a few of the ways which companies find value in B Corp certification. From your experience, which one of these examples or values have resonated most for you and for Revision as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the two easiest ones to talk about are earning unshakable trust and attracting and empowering our team. We have It's interesting because when our firm started, there were not many architects out there saying that they did sustainability. And so it was very easy to be in that space. And when we talk to people, they're like, "Oh, you're the sustainability architect." Well, now, almost every architect says they do sustainability. A lot of them hire us to do it for them. But I think that what is really important about B Corp is it puts that third party certification behind our claim. Kind of exactly what you were saying when you were going through the slides about consumers care, but trust is shaky, and B Corp bridges the gap. And so for us, we tell our clients and we tell, when we're going after projects, we're like, this is something we do because it matters. We don't just say we do this kind of work. We actually put the tracking and the evaluation and a third party behind it that validates the claims that we make about our company, and that's important. We've had lots of clients that tell us like this was really important in making the decision to go with your team over a different team. So we really see that as part of, just being, that statement of earning trust with the people who that we do business with, and that's really important to us. I think it also is very evident in terms of attracting and empowering our team. I do very few job interviews where someone doesn't mention that we're a B Corp. They either say, "Wow, that's so cool, you're a B Corp," or "I didn't know what B Corp was until I went to your website and I saw it in your job listing. And then I went to look at it, and that's really awesome." I think that hiring's competitive more than ever. And, for us, we are a business that is very kind of values forward in terms of the work that we do. And so, again, from a prospective employer, point of view, we're putting the metric behind this, not just saying, yeah, you can come work with us, you'll do sustainability. It's like, no, like we've actually done the due diligence and we can show people that we've had a third party say that like we are an impact business. And that matters a lot.
It's great to hear that it's aligned with the experience that we've heard from other businesses too, and that you can
Hmm.
see it so clearly in
Yeah.
things like employee interviews, like getting this direct feedback from people on how they're perceiving your certification. That's so valuable.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to see once people start working for a company like us, a B Corp, how their perspective on their work changes because I
Mm.
think that it's not it's different kind of mentality when you start to realize who you're working for.
Hmm.
That you're working for the people who are affected by your work,
Hmm.
and not working for a company. And so that's a really important mindset shift that we look for all of our staff to kind of grow into. And it takes time, but it's really cool when people get there and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, my work matters, and it's not just for a company, it's for the community it serves or the people who are impacted by it.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that because that's basically what I was going to ask in my second question, which is from your personal perspective, how has, knowing that you work for a B Corp or just having this B Corp culture in place affected your approach within the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say personally on this regard, that I think that I've found a much deeper meaning in my job as an architect. Um, you know, I think like most architects, I enjoy the craft and beauty of building, but what I think being part of a B Corp has done to me relative to being an architect is seeing um, such great value and importance in what I do on the impact side of things that I can get past those other things if we're doing something that's got huge impact. And there's so many projects out there and so much work out there that doesn't fit neatly into the, boxes of success for an architect in traditional senses, where we can go and do work that is truly impactful and transforming communities at the ground level. That's something that has really become some of the most important work that I do and the most fulfilling work that I do. And it's like I said, it's been a mindset shift in terms of being an architect. Um, and it's something that I hope to see more B Corps in the architecture community for this very reason, that we can do more work that creates more impact to people who are not architects.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that what you're saying about architecture and your personal experience with it probably applies to a whole range of industries. We actually see professional service firms like as one of the largest like industry categories
Hmm.
for certification, and I think similar to architecture, any other profession can just have like more meaning, more value from a personal perspective when you see the connection that it has on
Yeah,
your
yeah.
community, on the environment. So it's great that you're sharing that.
Yeah, and such a big part of it is tracking it. I mean, just to kind of swing back a little bit to B Corp,
Hmm.
I think that it's one of those things that's really exciting when you do start to track your impact and can actually see it in measured ways. It's one thing to kind of know you're doing it and to feel good about it, but it kind of takes on a whole different meaning when you start to put metrics behind it.
Absolutely. Okay, I think one final question for you
Sure.
is within this huge context of change happening right now in the world, in the US economy, even within B Lab. We're thinking as you look ahead for you, for your organization, how does being a B Corp help navigate all of these changes and prepare for what's next?
So it's interesting. I attended a Be Local webinar last week, and one of the speakers there, it was a great session. Max was on that one, and it was very much focused on how to keep doing impact work in the context of the world that we're in right now. And one of the speakers, and Max, you can please correct me because I can't, uh, I keep forgetting her name. I think her name is Lisa from Untours. She made this statement that has stuck with me really significantly, which was our work is our protest. And that was so powerful to me because I think that one of the things that has kept me going for the last few years is knowing that every day that I do come to work and do my job, that I am making a difference, that I am having positive impact on the world. And I think that this idea that right now, when the very underpinnings of much of what we do in terms of sustainability and equity, that this is being like unwritten from yeah, at the highest levels in our government can be very defeating. And I think that the idea that just by showing up and continuing to do the work and continuing it in the face of this is a form of protest is such a powerful and empowering thing that it's I can't stop I'm seeing people comment in the chat right now and I can't stop talking about this quote that was said because it just really stuck with me and is helping me to clarify why it is so important to just keep going right now. Like we all know that the work that we're doing is purposeful and has impact. And it's just that extra push to keep doing it and keep being positive about it and having fun doing it and being contagious with that fun.
Awesome. Yeah, we need to send this quote to our marketing team.
uh,
Um, Thank you so much, Drew, for coming in, for sharing your perspective. So valuable for all of us to hear from you, and for about how your company, how Revision has been incorporating B Corp principles for so long. So we really appreciate it.
yeah, thanks so much and keep doing the awesome work that you're doing too.
Absolutely. And now I'll hand it back to Max, who's going to take us on a deep dive on the platform for B Impact.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Joao and Drew. Always great to hear y'all's insights. Yeah, that Be Local Philly session was so awesome, Drew. I was so glad you were able to attend that. That session still giving me energy and carrying me through this week as well. And I think it's just a great example of how the B Corp movement materializes in that local level and can really give you that fuel in that community. So make sure to check out your B locals no matter where you're based. We typically have them around major cities and hubs. And then as we get enough B Corps in certain areas, they can start to create their own B locals. And in case you're curious about hearing a little bit more from Drew or other B Corps who want to share their experience, earlier, or I guess this was last year now at this point, we launched a podcast called Getting Down to Business, where we dive a little bit deeper into what B Corp means, and you can hear from other founders. This one was focused on companies based in Philadelphia, like Revision, but we're hoping to expand this and keep interviewing folks around the US. So, like Joel mentioned, we will be diving over into the B Impact platform itself, which really is this one-stop shop to start measuring and managing your impact. I really resonated with how Drew talked about often I'll work with folks who are like, Max, I'm doing the right things, but when you start getting into the data and tracking it, you can really start to see and measure and amplify that. So let me share my switch the screen that I'm sharing here real quick so we can start to see. So also like Joel mentioned, the B Lab movement is going through a lot of change. So we are actually transitioning our standards at the moment. So B Lab is constantly updating our standards to ensure that they're keeping up with changes in the market and still are the holistic representative standards that we want our B Corps benchmarking against. And so our new standards, which we're calling B Lab Standards version 2, are going live next month, but you can already start to benchmark your company's performance in the platform now. So when you create an account, you'll be brought into the B Impact platform. The very first thing that'll happen when you create an account is you'll be brought to assessment setup. So assessment setup is really critical in making sure that you're seeing standards that are tailored to your business specifically. So again, because B Lab is not a product level certification, we're a company level certification. Our standards are tailored to your company based on your size, sector, and location. And so completing setup is a really important way to make sure you're seeing the standards that are most applicable to your business. And so there are really four steps to assessment setup. The first two here are about making sure you have the right documents to get your account created. We'll want to understand how your company is legally structured. We heard Joao speak to that corporate governance piece. In order to become a B Corp, you actually have to expand your company's fiduciary duties to allow you to do more than just consider profit, because we want to kind of challenge that notion of what capitalism can be. And so once you have completed these first two stages, you'll kind of get a preliminary understanding of your company's eligibility. It's really important to note that as a company level certification, we don't certify individual brands, offices, we don't certify nonprofits or government entities. And so this eligibility section will help ensure that your company is eligible for B Corp based on its structure. And then these last two sections here are really about understanding what are your company's certification requirements. So the scoping section, this is where we'll ask you about how you're structured. Do you have a parent company, subsidiaries? What kind of investors are involved in your business? And so this will help us determine which entities need to be captured in your assessment as a company level certification, as well as which entities will need to make the necessary legal changes. And then this last section here is really about understanding your company's size. So that'll be based on your revenue, your employee count, and the way you're generating that revenue. And so once you complete setup, you'll see the progress bar will reach 100%. There will be a submit button at the top here, or at the very bottom, you'll hit submit. And once you hit submit, you'll be brought into the whole platform here. You can also go to this scope tab to totally understand what needs to happen for your business. So you can see here at a test account, so I don't have a ton of information, but maybe you have a parent company, a subsidiary, some other legal entities. The system will let you know which entities need to meet the legal requirements, as well as which ones need to be included in your assessment. And then you can also see how your assessment was, your standards were determined based on the information that you've entered. It's really important to know that if your business changes size, maybe you go through a big hiring phase, you get acquired, to always go back and update your assessment setup to ensure that the standards are reflective of your business's current size. And you can also see here that the guidance in assessment setup is only valid for a year. So if you're spending a lot of time benchmarking in the assessment, just make sure that you're doing this every year, or if your organization is going through any significant changes. So once you complete setup, the next thing you'll want to do is go over to eligibility. It's also really important to note that as part of the B Corp certification, we're wanting to look not just at the positive impacts that you're making, but also the potentially negative ones, especially high risk ones, and wanting to ensure that your business is in compliance with the spirit and the mission and vision of the B Corp movement. And so that will essentially mean we'll be looking into better understanding the clients that you serve and how much revenue you're potentially deriving from them. So as you can see here, we'll be asking about, do you serve clients in any of these potentially controversial industries? And if you do, there may be some additional requirements that need to be met, or we would actually ask for you to reduce the amount of revenue coming from those specific industries in order to get certified. So it's really important you navigate through this section after completing setup, just to help ensure we have clear expectations for what it'll take to become a certified B Corp. So once you complete these two things, the next place you want to go is to the actual self-assessment. So here you can see, based on the information I answered in my test account, there are 49 sub-requirements that will need to be met in order for my business to become a certified B Corp. And these 49 requirements are divided across 7 impact topics. So here are the 7 impact topics that we use to measure a company's impact. I saw there was a question in the chat around, hey, B Corp seems to be really focused on the environment piece, but what about that social side of things? And as a holistic company level certification, I think the impact topics do a great job of showing that we're not just looking at your company's environmental footprint, but we're also looking at those social metrics as well. So we have purpose and stakeholder governance, really thinking about how your business is structured legally. Fair work, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is really focused on that workforce, attracting and retaining that talent. And then we start getting more into better understanding the impacts of your supply chain, your physical footprint. And that's where we're getting into human rights, climate action, environmental stewardship, and circularity. And then another big piece I mentioned about the B Corp movement is this concept of collective action. And so that's where we get here into government affairs and collective action. In order to become a B Corp and to maintain your B Corp status, again, we'll be asking you to get engaged with other B Corps and with B Lab to engage in collective action to advocate for the change that you want to see in the world. So as you start benchmarking in the self-assessment, there's a lot of helpful functionality built in to better understand where you are and what's happening. So the first thing that we recommend doing is once you get your account set up, you know what your requirements are. It's going to be really important to build some internal buy-in at your organization. It's typically a kind of process that helps when you have other folks from different departments that are involved. So this is a great way to kind of project manage B Corp certification, distribute the workload, and kind of help break down silos. So it can be really helpful to have a couple different professionals in your B team is what we call it. So maybe you have somebody from finance, operations, HR helping you navigate benchmarking against these 50 sub requirements. So what you can do is you can actually invite team members to your account so that you can all work on it collectively together. So if you click on the blue icon up here in the corner with your initials, go to manage account, there'll be some additional features up here. But I just wanted to highlight the team members one. So this is where you can invite other team members to join you so that you can start using the B Impact Assessment as your one-stop shop to do that working, project manage, and let folks kind of navigate the standards in their own time. So once you've added some other folks to create your B team, you can actually go back to the dashboard and start assigning them certain topics. So maybe you're the project lead and you've brought in your HR director. So you're going to go, let's say, to the fair work section here. And you can see exactly what sub requirements your business will need to meet. You can actually assign your HR manager to a specific subtask and give them a due date. And they can go in with their knowledge and expertise, read through and understand. Okay, so in order to become a B Corp, we need to have all of our employees have a contract or an offer letter meeting the following criteria. Your HR manager can go through this and help ensure that they are meeting those requirements, and you can mark whether or not this is something that they haven't started. Maybe they're half of these requirements are being met, they need to make some changes, or maybe they're like, we got this, we're ready to go. They can mark it as evidence done and even attach a specific document here, maybe an example of an offer letter showing exactly what's happening. The other cool thing about the B Corp, the new platform here on the B Impact platform, is our documentation hub. So instead of needing to upload multiple documents multiple documents to every single sub requirement, let's say, for example, your HR manager can just upload your employee handbook right here into the documentation hub. And then as they're going through these different impact topics, they can just go ahead and indicate, let's go into this one again. They can just indicate attach evidence and they could pull it right from the documentation hub. So they can just attach the employee handbook and maybe leave a comment saying, hey, the evidence you're looking for is specifically on page 23 or something like that. So that just kind of wanted to give a quick example of how you can use the new self-assessment to kind of project manage, store your documentation, and really create that hub, that place where you're storing evidence and tracking your company's impact. You also heard Drew talk about the fact that he went through a recertification process. So in order to maintain your B Corp status over time, you'll need to continue to recertify. On our new standards, it'll happen year zero is the first year you certify. You'll then recertify 3 years later and then 2 years after that. Depending on your company's size and complexity, some of our larger companies or our companies in the manufacturing sector may have surveillance audits in between, but the main large audits where we're looking at the whole company's impact are on that 0, 3, and 5 year cycle. Another thing I just wanted to call out while we're doing the demo here is that you can also access the old B Corp standards. So these are standards that are going to no longer be able to certify under starting at the end of the month. But here you can see them in case you want to access them as well. But I again recommend for the folks on the call here today to focus on the self-assessment. And we also have something called our knowledge base. So if you're looking for more information, you can't find it in the platform, this little question mark icon up here is a great place to get some additional insight, to look for other articles. You can even contact us here and create a ticket with our team with a specific question or ask, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So I hope that helps just give it some insight into all the different features and functionality that's available in the B Impact platform. Like I mentioned, we're going through some transition now too. So if you're logging in or if you don't have an account yet, it might look a little different when you log in, but all the features and functionality I showed today will still be available there. So now I'm just going to jump back over to our slide deck, talk about some next steps, and then make sure to save us a little time for Q&A. So again, we saw here the new impact topics that we went through and covered today. And like I said, the B Impact platform is really your go-to resource to manage your compliance with the requirements, to track your progress, to invite those team members to collaborate, and really prepare for that audit process. It's really important you have your ducks in a row before you say, hey, B Lab, we're ready to go through this audit, because we're going to be looking for evidence on pretty much all of the sub-requirements that you have. And so again, we're creating a ton of great resources and tools in the knowledge base to support you, evidence guides, templates, what to expect during the audit. So if you have questions about that, definitely check out the knowledge base or reach out to us. So in terms of next steps, I know we've got a lot of folks on the call today who might be at different stages of their B Corp journey. So if you have not yet created an account, first thing to do is go in and create that account and complete assessment setup so that you can see what your company's requirements would be. Next one is really discovering what's possible. Spend some time in the platform, dig through the different sub requirements, and remember that ultimately you're not alone in this. Folks like me, Joao, and Stacy are here to support you in your journey. You can always schedule time with us to talk more. And again, like I mentioned in the demo, it's really important to build that internal buy-in, to build that B team. You don't need to do this alone. You totally can do it alone if you're, a sole founder, if you're a sustainability lead at an organization who's been tasked with this. It's definitely something you can do alone. But the whole point of the B Corp movement is that community piece. So we want to encourage you to start to embrace that as you're navigating the process, building that internal buy-in. And also, like we heard today from Drew and Joao, there's lots of other components outside of the B Corp movement that are connected to us, like B Locals and B Corps, who are really willing to share about their experience and support you no matter where you are in the journey. And then this is our welcome introductory webinar. We also have a getting started webinar where I'm going to dive much deeper into assessment setup, how to navigate that, how to understand the legal requirement, how to project manage this beast. So if you are excited, you've already created an account, you're ready for next steps, really encourage you to go sign up for our getting started webinar where we're going to dive a lot deeper into how to start chipping away and setting up your account successfully. So then just last few things here. So why certify, why now? We've talked about a lot of things today. We've heard from a B Corp, we've heard from myself and Joao. And again, just wanted to remind us that, B Corp is a really great way to anchor your purpose today. The world is changing quickly, and we know entrepreneurs start their business to fill a need in their community. And so B Corp is a really great way to keep yourself accountable to that. Also, future-proofing your business for tomorrow as we continue to have an increasingly volatile environment and workforce. It's awesome to be able to de-risk, to be in compliance. And then again, if you do want to get an account created that you haven't yet, you can do that right here at app@bcorporation.net. So if you do have questions and you want to get in contact with myself, Anastasia, or Joao, you can reach out to us at certify@bcorporation.net, and we'll connect you with the folks you need or get you the insight that you're looking for. And again, we'll be sending out the deck after our call today, so you can always reference this later on if you want to remember how to get in contact with us. So we have about 10 minutes left here, so I want to make sure we save a little time for Q&A, see if folks have any questions for our presenters today or Drew. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, check and see if there's anything in the chat we want to discuss. Oh, yes, I'm seeing a comment here from Jen as well. So another great resource if you are resource strapped, looking for some additional support on your B Corp journey. There are what are called B Impact teams, which are groups of students who will actually help you complete the assessment and do that benchmarking work. So definitely make sure to reach out and see if your local university has a B Impact team. Here in Philadelphia, I recently went to go connect with the B Impact team over at Temple University, and they're helping current B Corps recertify as well as new B Corps join the movement. So that's another great resource to keep an eye out for if you're looking for some additional capacity or support to explore your journey. Joao, anything in the Q&A that we should uplift? Let's see here. Okay, I see one from Stacy. Question from Andy around internal buy-in. This is a good question. Joao, you want to speak to this one? I know you work with some of the larger, more complicated companies where you got a lot of different players to get buy-in. You got boards,
Yeah.
investors, sustainability leads.
Yeah, definitely. And the question is asking about shareable documents that summarize the assessment, the requirements. We do have a couple of options that are included in our resource hub, including presentations similar to the one that we just shared, as well as kind of more high-level overview documents. So definitely invite you all to go through our resource hub for this type of documentation. But just to speak more broadly about getting internal buy-in, that is certainly one of the most important parts of the certification journey. This is a certification that involves the entirety of the company's operations. So it can't be just, one sustainability manager's role to go through this process. You need to have leadership buy-in, and then from there have buy-in from other teams to track this data, to provide documentation, to attend review calls once you're in the review process. So how to do it, how to manage this is, I think it's important to bring in um, leadership and executive decision makers as early as possible into this process, getting them to understand what B Corp is, why this is important for the company. So if you're having a conversation with someone on the B Lab team, certainly invite your leadership to join this conversation to get their questions answered. Um, After you attend a webinar like this, maybe send a message or find a way to bring this up within a conversation with the rest of your team to say, hey, this is what we're thinking about in terms of B Corp. This is what I learned recently. It's just always important to have multiple touch points so this remains top of mind for other people, especially as you are completing the assessment and you will need to rely on others for the information you will need. Um, as early as you can involve them and make sure that they understand why this is important, it would just be easier for you. So yeah, anything you would add, Max?
No, I totally agree with what you're saying there. And again, I think getting familiar with the platform really helps too. So if you are that in person, that kind of champion internally, when you do get those folks who are willing to engage, just making sure you walk them through the platform, helping them feel comfortable, get familiar with it. That can always be really helpful too. I know Drew has a colleague at Revision who really is managing the platform, dealing with all of that data piece, but making sure that you have those people you can tag and reference when you need specific information is so helpful when it comes to project managing certification. Because again, it's not a product level certification. We're looking at your whole business. So it's really important that you get access to that information that you need. Um, Let me see here. Are there any other questions we missed or any questions for Drew specifically while we have him on the call? Let's see here. Yeah, I see one question here about the beehive. Drew, I don't think you've never interacted with the beehive specifically, have you? Oh, you're on mute, Drew.
I think we did a little bit. That's like the marketplace for B Corps. Is that right?
Yep,
Yeah. So we,
exactly.
yeah, so we did put up some some marketplace things there where we were offering sustainability evaluations or B Corp evaluations to other businesses, and we talked with a few businesses out of it. I think we'd like to try and figure out how to leverage it a little bit more. I think it's
Yeah.
tricky w when it comes to like professional services. I think it's probably more successful when you're offering like durable goods or something.
Yep, yeah, that totally makes sense. I feel like we have a section of the Beehive, we call it the asks and offers section. So folks are offering discounts,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
we will see some folks when it comes to service offerings. And then one thing that's really cool with the Beehive as well is that it's kind of like the LinkedIn or the social media platform for B Corp. So only once you're certified do you get access to the Beehive. And one cool thing that we're seeing as folks are transitioning over to the new B Corp standards is folks working together, sharing tools and resources to help navigate this transition. So that's one thing too that I always love to see is, capitalism can sometimes feel a little cutthroat and we're always after the same market share, but seeing the way B Corp's model working together, supporting each other is always awesome. I love that you were offering B Corp consulting support to other B Corps because it does take a village to keep your status up and keep
yeah.
pushing that.
And it's interesting because the ones that we talked to, they were all in a similar position where it's like they had to renew or they had to recertify, and the person who was tasked with it was not the person who did it last time, and they didn't know where to begin. It was like it kept. We talked with like two or three of them, and it was the same story each time. So
Yeah, and I think that just highlights again why it's so important to build that B team, have more than just
totally,
one person
totally,
leading that
yeah.
journey. And again, I think it's a great way to break down silos, create opportunities to collaborate with teams you may not work
Hmm.
with. Even at B Lab, we struggle with silos, and so I definitely understand what it's like when you're just so focused on what you're doing. To have an intentional space to bring other folks in, to pull up and really kind of look at the data, measure the impact, and say, are we headed the direction we want to go, and where can we do better? Can be really powerful. And I love Carson, your comment here. This is the Beehive is the antidote to doom scrolling in these trying times. That's how I feel about Be Local and being involved in that, like having these places to hear from folks who really are pushing back and focusing on the good in the world today. And again, I know we're approaching time here, but like Anastasia mentioned in the chat, if you do want to reach out to us, you can always connect with one of us live for a one-to-one call. We host office hours every week. So if you reach out, submit a ticket, or email certify@bcorporation.net, we'll be sure to get in touch with you and schedule some time to connect. We can also help you find other B Corps you want to talk to. I know Drew, I'm curious to hear if there was an aspiring architecture firm who reached out who said, "Hey, we want to learn more about B Corp. Would you be willing to connect with them or share a little bit more about what your
Absolutely,
journey was like?"
yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's another thing I've heard from a lot of other bees is they're so willing to share their experience and their journey. So if you're still unsure and you want to find a company similar to you or in a similar industry, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help connect you to folks so you can hear from what their experience is like firsthand. But again, Drew, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today, answer some questions. Always a pleasure when we get a founding bee on a call and inspiring other folks who are just getting involved with the movement for the first time. So really appreciate you again being here and looking forward to seeing you at the next Be Local Philly event.
Absolutely. Nice to see you all.
Take it easy. All right,
Thank
y'all.
you,
Well, thank you
Drew.
again for being here in the webinar. That is our time for today. You know where to find us, and we'll be following up with a recording, slide deck, and all the information that you need.
Thanks, everyone.